Well, good morning, North America. Good afternoon, Europe. And can I ask what you are doing, still staying up and listening in for those of you in Asia? This next hour will be live streamed on LinkedIn as well as being on Zoom. If you can please register on Zoom, and then Jessica Cork will also send you a recording of this event so that you can show it to others later. Hence, this session is being recorded. And Jessica has already put in her email address in the chat bar. As with all Zoom sessions, please put yourself on mute, but no need to turn off your camera. This session is pretty relaxed. There are a couple of slides early on with the objective to educate what is being brought to the apparel industry. I have been asked to moderate this webinar, and I hope I don't come across as too academic. As this is an original interpretation of the science, it is easy to become a tech head. My big interest personally, and the advantage of asking the questions, is dumbing down the information so that everybody stands the chance of understanding the subject. If those listening in are not getting a grasp of it or have other zip related questions, then please put them in the chat bar. There will be people monitoring the chat bar. Hopefully towards the end of this session, we will be able to address some of the questions. And can I also point out that Jessica has foolishly admitted that whoever asks the best question will get a bottle of champagne sometime during the next month. So of course we need to know who you are. If the question is more technical, then it is likely that one of the backroom team is going to answer you directly, as opposed to risking me putting foot in mouth during the webinar. For those that don't know me, I lecture at the Royal College of Art in London on the subject of performance sportswear design. I am most associated with better sustainable practice in the outdoor ingredient supply chain, or fabrics, as everyone would say. First, I want to introduce the other three on the panel. The key person is Jesper. Jesper leads the design at Houdini Sportswear. Houdini is a star of the ISPO Outstanding Awards because it seems to win something every year and has led to much of the sustainable thinking in actually transferring into practice. In Sweden, it will be going home time in an hour, so I must get on and introduce the remainder of the panel. Do you want to give us a wave, Jesper, so people know who to look out for? Next one down the list is Natasha. Natasha is another person bringing fresh ideas into the outdoor and sports industry. She founded Eon 5 years after graduating, which might seem as a rash move to make whilst the market is still trying to understand what the technology can do, let alone how to apply it. Natasha's going to answer the first question today about what a connected product is as soon as the intros are over, so we can all focus on what the actual topic it is. Good morning, Natasha, and thank you for joining us. If you can wave, Natasha, people will know who to look towards. The third character is Brian. For those of you who don't know Brian, Brian is the sustainability guru at YKK. I think that means he is wise enough, he's certainly got enough grey hair, to be able to strip the bull out of everyone else's greenwashing developments so that YKK can deliver proper progress into the marketplace, as opposed to just adding to the general confusion. YKK are also the team that have pulled together this session of knowledge sharing so that it benefits the whole industry. The outdoor and sports industry does have a record of pre-competitive collaborations, but what should be revealed over the next 50 minutes is the ironed out solution that the partnership between Houdini, Eon, and YKK have created. Brian is normally on the west coast of the United States, but this event is on as the industry focuses on outdoor retailer, currently being staged in Denver. Brian, can you hear us clearly enough? Sound. Okay, on to the actual work part. This session has been titled How Connected Garments Can Enable a Circular economy. First up, I would like Natasha to describe what I got wrong when I answered the question to her about connected products with a generalization about it was the Internet of Things. I have been aware of the chips that could be embedded in objects, but putting such technology into white goods is relatively simple compared to the zip puller requirement of making it actually small and secure enough for the heat applied within the sealing and laundering processes. Natasha, over to you. Can you please tell us what a connected product is?
Thank you. This is so exciting. A connected product. Today, within fashion retail, we basically, I'll give a little bit of a landscape from a non-technical perspective, but we basically ID products from point of production to point of sale, right? Every product has a barcode or an RFID tag or some way that we ID that product such that we can treat it as an asset. Now, this panel is called Why Connected Products Enable Circularity. Now, today, we remove that ID the moment that product is sold. That product is no longer an asset, and that product is no longer connected to the brand, and that product no longer has a voice. Now, by giving every product a digital identity, we can start to connect each and every product, give that product a voice, and enable that product to basically speak for the rest of its life cycle instead of just ending at point of sale. So now that product has a voice. It can connect to the customer so the customer can scan and engage that product. It can also speak to other players within the ecosystem. So our vision at Aeon is really focused on how that connected product not only speaks to one user, like the customer, but how that connected product also speaks to the resale, enabling the brand to ID that product for resale, to the recycler, enabling that product and its material contents to be identified for recycling. So basically, the product has a voice and it speaks and shares data and content to all of the different users that it encounters throughout its life cycle. And of course, that requires you actually attaching a physical enabler to a product. And through this project, it was very exciting to work with that YKK new solution.
Natasha, that makes a lot of sense to me, but can you make it easy and share a few pictures of what this might be like?
I can. Here we go. So I'm going to show you basically one of the things when we started Aeon, which was really hard to do, was how do you identify a product for its entire life cycle? What can you attach to a physical product that is durable, washable, cost-effective, speaks to the customer mobile phone, can speak to resellers and recyclers, and has longevity? And so when Brian and I from YKK connected, we were absolutely, inspired by the solution, because here what you can see pictured on the Houdini jacket is the YKK Nfc Enabled Zipper. This enables customers to tap that product ID and access content and experiences directly from Houdini. And it enables the resellers and the recyclers to also scan and access the content that they need. And so here it's demonstrated and pictured within the Houdini product.
So it's just a regular zip puller. I wouldn't be able to tell much difference between what already exists.
Yes. And now with that zipper puller on that product, it's possible for that product to have basically a digital birth certificate that gets created when that product's born with all of that essential data. And it's possible for that product to now have a digital passport, such that that information about that product lifecycle can be generated and recorded over time. Today, if you're unfamiliar, when a product arrives for resale, a reseller is looking at it trying to figure out what that product is. When a material arrives to be recycled, they're also trying to identify what the material content is. And now through that zipper, everybody can tap, engage, and access that information to steward that product through its circular life cycle.
Sound. That makes an awful lot of sense. Thank you. Fingers crossed, everyone, we're now into the hundreds of people listening, understand what we mean by a connected product. Now, on the back of this, I also want to flag up the latter half of the session title as one area that the textile industry, in Charles's opinion, keeps getting wrong. It is almost as if the fast fashion industry has hijacked the expression of, how would I say it? They've hijacked the expression of the circular economy to justify creating garments that are recycled when the owner just falls out of love with wearing them. The circular economy is all about keeping the original product going for as long as possible. There is a chain, and Patagonia, I must acknowledge, inspired the thinking towards this chain. But since they started it, the chain has been expanded upon, and the chain's got lots of R's. It starts with revitalization of the garment, the reconditioning, the repairing of the garment, the resizing, and so on until you get to the ninth objective, the ninth option, which is recycling. So there's an awful lot of stuff that should happen to a garment to keep it in circulation before it gets recycled. Now, not even I can remember all the steps in order. So to have an aid memoir does make my life easier. And on the whole subject of near field communications, that has run alongside the textile industry for all this millennium, driven by two main demands. The step up in technology associated with apparel. This is so that people who want to understand the qualities and benefits of what they have bought, plus also the desire to highlight the sustainability factors of garment and what you do with the garment. Now, this helps create more of the emotional durability within garments, or in simple terms, it creates reasons for us to love what we have for longer. Now, I have seen QR codes presented as a solution. Before that, there were embedded RFIDs in the fabric. What we're going to talk about today is the Touchlink, and I hope that the Touchlink will make you as excited as I have become, because it is, in my opinion, the best solution on the market. But before we get into the detail of the Touchlink, it's interesting to understand who the partners are. So to begin with, I want to start with the various participants, and also I want to stop talking so much. So Jesper, if I can highlight you. Jesper, you joined Houdini last year from one of the big, good sports brands. What attracted you to swap companies and go to Sweden?
Good afternoon, Charles. Thanks for having me. It was actually a few years ago, but for me, it was really the purpose-driven philosophy. It's a company with a vision to create something positive and actually give back rather than taking from the planet. And it really means reimagining the way we do things in society today. And as a designer, it means to design without compromises for the user, for the planet, and at the same time to do great business that could lead as an example for other colleagues in the industry. And if you're triggered by challenges, Charles, could you think of anything more challenging than that?
Well, I've got to admit, the big brand you were with had a really good sustainability attitude, but I must acknowledge Eva, as she educates me the whole time. Eva Carlson is, of course, the CEO of Houdini, who really is making us all think more. Now, currently, Jesper, you lead the design team, and Houdini are known for tinkering with normal practice, and quite often they produce brilliance. Are you allowed to say anything about how what your team does is actually different from a normal design team?
I think a big part of it is us sharing a lot of the things that we do, but maybe this time it's about the way we work together as a team. Internally, we don't call ourselves the design team, we call it the offering team. And in my role, I'm responsible for what we offer to the end user. The vision behind being the maximum experience with zero impact and beyond. And it starts at a conceptual level, working through materials, design, product development, and production. But also through how we look at services and business models. And by putting the user in the middle of all that and approaching innovation, design, and implementation and production as one phase rather than steps after each other, we manage to approach it all differently. And we also have the planet in mind, which means for us that we don't have any sustainability work. We only have a lot of work.
Okay, so sustainability is integrated throughout the whole company. It's no longer a special department. It's what you're all focused on in some way to some degree. Now, Houdini have gained a disruptive tag by persuading their customers to do things differently, like buy less but better quality products. The brand has walked the fine line between natural materials and synthetics successfully, as well as shunning the option of making easy money by just selling more. What is it about the Touchlink zip puller technology that has made it line up alongside the values of Houdini?
To fully express that, I'm going to take a slight detour, but I'll get there quick enough.
Good.
As a brand, we've been designing for circularity since 2001, and we're closing in on our target to become 100% circular on a product level by 2022. But to reach our real vision of going beyond, we cannot stop at designing the products. We need to push beyond that. And our blueprint for this circular world or circularity as a whole has always been nature, where everything is interlinked by feedback loops, making sure that there's a constant exchange of energy and that it's optimizing the resources which is there and nothing is ever going to waste. And by connecting our garments, we are able to do that. We are able to create these feedback loops. And just like in nature, this is where the zipper becomes interesting. The zipper becomes the point of connection. It becomes the door, the portal to get into these feedback loops. Did you follow, Charles?
Yeah, no, that sounds good. But we're going to go on to Natasha after you, and she will talk a bit more about the technology. Now, what I want to question you about is that in zip technology terms, this is as different as I have seen. Now, that means risk, especially if the customer just doesn't get it. What has made Houdini want to lead in this technology? Now, I've already stated, as a brand, you have shunned making easy profit. And this is surely another indication that you just want to add a curveball factor. Does nobody in Sweden just want to have a regular, steady lifestyle? Now, you don't have to answer that question, but it's something about the attitude within the company. And I want you to explain to me more about the Houdini universe.
Jokes aside, I'm not sure that doing business as usual will lead us to have a regular, steady lifestyle for such a long period of time. So I think that's an important part of what we're aiming for, what we're after. But I'm going to jump back to these feedback loops because I think they're an important part of what we're doing in the reflection of how we look upon circularity and what it enables. And these flows, they help us gain, these feedback loops, they help us gain control over our flows. First out is the material flow. Since we believe in producer responsibility, it actually allows us to take control over our resources. Our resources are merely borrowed, and at one point in time, they will need to go back to nature. And we need to become something positive again. But it also helps us control our product flow. And designing circular products is no longer enough, which you mentioned earlier, Charles. We need to make sure we're maximizing their use, to make sure that each user understand their product to the fullest, but also to make sure that the product delivers at the highest level. You've had this parka for X amount of months or adventures, and it's time to reactivate your DWR. We need to be able to have that communication together with our end users so that they explore and understand the product to its fullest. But also we need to maximize the product to its fullest to make sure that it doesn't become a passive product that sits in someone's wardrobe and staying unused for a too long period of time. And instead enabling recoms models, as we touched upon before, in repairs, rentals, and reused and secondhand, which we have in place now, and to enable to do that digitally, to do that at scale. And then we come to the third flow, which is really about information. Because to do that shift and to create the circular economy, we need to work collaborative. We need to create a change and to distribute our knowledge, not just from Houdini to other brands, but from our end users to us and to other end users. around us, for them to better understand what the products can do for them, but also share adventures, share the beauty of nature, share why you want to reconnect to nature. And going back to the zipper again, this becomes the entry point, and the rest is just the imagination. So for us, it's really about moving from that point where a lot of the fashion industry are today, where we're at a stage of a transactional economy. You step into a store and you buy a garment, and at that point, the relationship is lost. We want to move into a relationship-driven economy where we have a system which allows us to have a two-way communication over a longer period of time and have a much deeper connection that way.
Well, it's this last point that you just talked on. Yeah, it's this last point which I'm amazed at, because almost every brand up to now just wants to sell product. And when it goes to the consumer, it's their responsibility. But what you're proposing is we're going to go hand in hand with the consumer and help them on the whole journey of the product, which is wonderfully responsible. Thank you. But I interrupted you, Jesper, just because it was a fantastic thing that you said.
No, I wanted to sum it up in, we published a white paper quite recently where we explore what a half-earth lifestyle or half-earth way of living could be like. And we try to summarize it down to a formula to make it concrete and quite pragmatic. I know you like that way of looking at it, Charles, that it's P times V plus L equals I. And P stands for product. The way our industry usually takes the control today, we look upon how a product is produced. V stands for volume, the amount of goods we need to sell. And the question here is, can we create smarter products? So you need to own fewer products that can do more. And L stands for lifestyle, or the way of living. And here it's really about questioning ourselves as a company, as part of this industry, and what we can do to enable and support people to go out there and enjoy nature, enjoy life better. And those in combination for us really is the impact that we see. How we can make people look at the bigger picture more holistically and see why it's important to do a circular or work with a circular economy or towards a regenerative lifestyle.
So you're actually leading your customers to join you in the circular economy journey, and you're going to help them, or you're going to give them a few easy tips on how to progress smoothly in this direction, which is a brand living its values. Thank you. Thank you. That is quite a bold thing to do, I have to say. But is there anything else you want to mention about the Houdini universe before I go on to Natasha?
I think it's an important part to look upon this as a two-way. So we feel that we can learn just as much from our end users as they can learn from us. And I think that's an important part of the universe. We've always innovated through collaboration, through work with our end users. And the same is going to be for this project and the upcoming path with it. It's together we're going to learn on how to create this magical adventure or ride together. And it's only by doing it together we will be able to actually change something.
Brilliant.
That maybe.
That makes a lot of sense to me. I think you have painted the picture of what the why is for everyone tuning in. Now, without ignoring you, I actually want to go and find out the what. So I'm gonna take the spotlight off you, and we're gonna go on to Natasha, because I want Natasha now to explain to us, because the majority of those listening into this session will know who Houdini and YKK are, but they will have not heard of Eon. How would you sum up the direction of Eon as a company? Because when I Google the company, you have a wonderful biography, but it's got all the trendy circular fashion buzzwords. Natasha, what do we need to know about Eon?
Great. Well, I think for those of you who haven't heard of Eon, we are fashion and retail's leading connected product cloud. So what we do for brands and retailers, and what our role is within this project, was we are basically the data and the software infrastructure powering the connected product. So you think about the physical hardware, right? The YKK chip, how that physical product connects to the cloud, and now how that connected product communicates to all of the different stakeholders across that product's life cycle, and how that product both shares data, generates data, connects to different applications via API, and drives value for the brand across its life cycle. So in terms of, I think there were a lot of great sort of technical questions that I'm kind of eyeing here in the side of the chat. One of the questions was about interoperability and how that connected product actually communicates across industry's value chain. So Eon led and actually Houdini leveraged in this pilot, Eon led the development of industry circular ID protocol. Now, for those of you who haven't heard of the Circular ID protocol, it is the global language for connected products in the circular economy. So if you think about how your product is going to be ID'd by a recycler and how they're going to identify those material contents, how you're going to ID that product for resale, how your product is going to connect to your digital wardrobe application, and all of these sort of ecosystems of services that brands are trying to unlock around each product, that product needs to communicate in a shared language and to drive these different business processes and applications. So in partnership with a global consortium of industry leadership, including groups like H&M, Target, PVH, leading partners like Waste Management, SAP, Microsoft, NGS1, Eon led that development of the Circular ID protocol. So this protocol enables each of these connected products to communicate across the circular value chain, and has been implemented on these connected products. As a platform, we're agnostic to the hardware enabler, and a product can be connected via various QR, NFC, RFID. What I think is so strategic about this enabler is it's high touch, it's very visible to the customer. It is native, the NFC chip, which is in the zipper, is native to the iPhone. So now customers can simply tap that product and connect to the Eon product cloud, where we actually bring the customer directly into the world of Houdini to basically resell that product. So you're starting to build in services to the customer, and that same functionality can take place portfolio-wide, which is happening for a lot of our brand partners. So it's very exciting to see within industry this, I guess, big shift from a capsule collection mindset of bringing a few products online to how do we digitize portfolio-wide? Because by giving every product a digital identity, brands can nearly double the profitability per product and connect directly to their customers.
Natasha, can I just say, wow, I thought I asked a simple lead-in question. You've given me chapter and verse now. So you've done a brilliant job, but I want to take you back a couple of stages because I didn't realize that you were a solution to so much I didn't know about. Now, you've explained it very well, but you also started to use some expressions that us people in the outdoor industry aren't comfortable about. When people start to talk about agnostic products, I don't know what the start point on that is, but rather than dissecting exactly what you said, because I can Google that and I can pick that up, what I want to ask you about is YKK have worked closely with you as you have developed the Touchlink technology. I was going to ask, what is it about Eon that's attracted YKK to want to work with you? But I think that you've impressed us so much by what you've already said. You're actually revealing how much Charles didn't know of your influence. But you're now at the magical stage, very similar to what my postgraduates see, as this time a decade ago, you were still in education yourself, where you hear about the new thinking being applied. Now that thinking has progressed to products, as you pointed out, the Eon Circular ID protocol. How would you explain the benefits that this technology brings to the customer? So not the supply chain, not the recycling chain, but the guy who goes and buys the product. Because when I mentioned it to Jesper, I also said, look, the problem with technology is that it risks being flagged up as the end user just won't get it. What have you been able to do at Ian that makes you able to win through and for it to be easy for the customer to use it?
Yeah, I think we think of the customer as sort of the first big unlock for brands with a connected product, right? And if you have circularity goals as well, your first objective is to connect to the customer because they are crucial for you to meet those circularity goals. You need that customer to bring back that product. You need them to recycle it, right? The customer is a stakeholder in the value chain, and they're especially the most important from a commercial perspective as well here. So you want to think of the connected product as taking your simple product and basically turning it into an intelligent asset and a media channel for you to connect directly to your customer and for your customer to connect directly to you. I think the age-old ways of reaching consumers through email marketing is sort of saturated. It's not a sort of genuine channel for connection. And it doesn't offer the customers the information that they want to know at a product level, right? So a lot of purchasing today, especially even from a sustainability perspective, is driven by actual information of this product. Now, today, you can only say what you can fit on the care label, right? There's so much more to each product. Then also, I think Jesper brought this forward, the relationship with the customer is entirely transactional. You have that customer, you sell that product, and then they disappear. You have no data, you have no continued relationship. Through the connected product, the brand actually can maintain that relationship to the customer. When the customer is ready to resell, instead of going to a third-party channel where the original brand loses that customer and they lose the product value, I can now tap my YKK zipper and resell back directly through the brand, right? So you're starting to build in these services. Now, Houdini has the benefit of not only when I resell, I get a credit to Houdini again to stay within their ecosystem, but Houdini also recaptures the product for their own resale. So basically, it's a double win, and not to mention the brand also has all the data and visibility into that product's life cycle. So it's very exciting from a customer perspective, and we truly believe at Eon and are seeing firsthand that these connected products will change how people buy, sell, own, and connect with their products.
What I'm most impressed about is how far through the thinking has gone, because sorry, I am not a millennial. I'm not Gen Z. And I love it when you describe email marketing as old school. I was the generation before that when we had direct mail. So, but we know the customer often gets excited at the idea of new technology, and that the most exciting stuff is normally the easiest to access. Now, the demonstration you did with an Apple phone, to me, just makes life wonderfully easy. Now the Touchlink has been guided by what YKK have highlighted. How do you envisage this technology actually being taken to the next level? And without revealing too many secrets, I am sure Eon are not the only high-tech company looking at this field. What is it about the Touchlink that you have developed that you see as being the champion of the area? What's so special about what you've done? If that makes sense.
Is this a question for Brian? Yeah. So
no. This is a question for you because you've developed the software, haven't you?
Oh, yeah. So basically, if you think of YKK as the hardware provider, basically it's an NFC chip. So Eon's role is basically connecting that NFC chip to the cloud and to Houdini's data. So we create that digital birth certificate and we give that product basically a link. So now that cloud-based data profile, that customer experience, all the different things you want to drive to that product can be connected to the physical asset via the YKK hardware enabler. So we were very excited about the YKK hardware enabler because of the value that it brings to the customer and the brand in terms of a enduring identifier that gets attached to the product for its life cycle.
Natasha, that's great. I took you back a stage because when you said it the first time, it was so massive an answer. I just wanted to restate what the important things are. Now, before reveal how naive I am in this area, I'm going to politely ask you to put yourself on mute, and we're going to turn to Brian, because Brian is the guy, he is the energy behind the whole product. Now, Brian, there are many cases of technology, and there's always been a demand from the outdoor and sports goods industry for the latest gizmos to be used. Can I ask you that question that Natasha almost picked up on, which is, what has made the TouchLink technology different to the list of novelties that have ultimately failed to last within our industry?
Well, Charles, that's a great question. And I think there's really focus on two aspects. One is its simplicity. It is so simple. It's just a simple NFC chip. Requires no power source. It's incredibly durable. We can put it into a package that is very small. It can be custom tailored to whatever the design is for the particular product. And also the fact that it's not going to break. It's going to deal with those laundries. It's going to deal with the abuse of everyday life. If we look at all the other technologies that we've had, they've been complicated. They've involved wires, controllers, battery packs, all this complexity that did not lend itself to longevity. And one of the big things about YKK as we evaluate technologies is how durable is it? How is it going to put up with everybody's everyday use of laundering and all the other types of abuses that garments go through? So that's the beautiful thing about TouchLink, is it's in such a durable package that it can put up with all that, and it has the longevity that we expect of products. Because one of the things that we're looking at from a circularity point of view is we want this product to be able to last lifetimes, generations, right? There's no reason why the TouchLink puller should not be on garments in use 20 years from now. So that's one of the big things I think makes this unique and different. And the fact also is that it never is going to become obsolete. If I bought a jacket with a TouchLink puller today, and 10 years from now, I have that jacket still, I could actually have even more capabilities and functionalities in that than I did when I first bought it, because all of the functionality happens in the cloud. And so it's just all it takes is a little bit of software programming to go ahead and update, improve, add on, and give more functionality to the garment. So that's one reason why I think it's going to last much longer. The other reason why it's not a novelty is it's powered by the phone. This is our connection point to the consumers. And now that the fact that almost everyone has a smartphone, it enables us to go ahead and easily connect with the technology in ways that we haven't been able to with other solutions in the past.
Brian, wow. Okay. I'm really liking what I'm hearing from Natasha and yourself. Jesper painted a wonderful why. Natasha's pointed out what it is, and now you're getting into the detail of how it's being done. But before I ask you the next question, can I also give a big shout out to John Holiday? The guys of you who are watching this on Zoom, in the chat bar, John has become the fastest typer that I have become aware of. People are asking him questions and he's giving the most phenomenal detailed answers. Keep on pounding the questions to him, because his knowledge is far in excess of me and Brian. So we're happy when John picks them up. But Brian, to come back to you, almost a bit of criticism in that Zips seem to have built a bit of a reputation this millennium, especially at garment recycling centers, that if the garment is over a decade old, which is more than the time period that most garments are held on to, then the chances are the zip will be broken. However, if I find garments that were produced in the last millennium, so 20 years ago, the chances are the zip will still function. Now, YKK have actually gone against the popular trend, and you've kept your quality uppermost. And I know, because you've got to pay for the quality. This means that your product costs a couple of cents more. Now, from brands whose concentration all this millennium has been trying to increase the amount of profit by sourcing an even cheaper garment, because the selling price hasn't really changed this millennium, I want to ask you that around why the performance sportswear industry, it's built on the functionality, and sometimes there is little margin for error, especially with what the weather can impose on us all. On top of which, with those garments that we use in the outdoors and for sports, we get a great emotional connection, or as I refer to it, emotional durability. And those are become our favorite garments. So I suppose the question I'm hinting towards is, I want to ask, why do people want to risk their comfort on a lesser quality product? So this is not a Touchlink question. This is a zip question. Is a better question to this is, why has YKK been placed at the center of this project? What are the values that you're bringing into it from the zip technology side?
Well, I think you kind of summed it up right there, Charles, and it's about the quality. It's about that durability. It's about the fact that we can build a product that's going to last for an incredibly long time, and that we're working on building solutions to make it easier to repair and keep those garments in use much, much longer. You know, we work with a lot of phenomenal brands, and some of our best brands operate warranty centers. And so we work very closely with them to see real world examples of what fails in garments. We get, you know, numerous garments back that have failed after numerous years of use. And in that, we can evaluate, what are the failure points? Where are the problems? How do we improve upon that? How do we go ahead and make that better? Because our goal is to make products that are durable and long-lasting. And that goes back to our core values as a company of sustainability. The longer we can keep a product in operation, in use, it is going to have the lowest environmental impacts. And that's really in all of our favors. And so that's really what we're focused on from a quality perspective, is not only the ability to have products that operate smoothly and easily, and also but also keep people safe in real high risk situations. I mean, we build zippers for everything from spacesuits to deep water diving suits. And those are all situations where if a zipper fails, it means someone's life. And so we take quality incredibly seriously, even down to our lowest price zippers.
Wow. Okay. Now I've been scanning the chat at the same time as this, and what I want to start to do, because I don't want to ask Natasha and Brian to start to talk too much about the technical detail. I think this webinar is all about the whole concept. And my biggest takeaway so far is how well thought out the concept is. And you've almost answered every question which I had before we started, before I've asked them, because you have gone on the journey that the customer's going to go through, whether that's the customer as your customer who is the brand, or whether it's the end user who puts the money into the process. So I'm very impressed with the quality of thought going through. What I want to do is I want to start scanning the chat bar for the various questions coming in. But before we do that, Brian, can I give you the opportunity? What question should I have asked you about? What answer, what opportunity are you going to get again to say, by the way, Charles, we can also do this? Please, can I give the floor to you? Because my brain's just starting to come to terms with how good this is. But I'm sure you've not dealt all your cards yet.
No, I think that's a correct way of putting it. No, we look at this as the starting point for this technology and how we integrate it across our entire product line. We see opportunities to go ahead and use this in all the different fastening products that we go ahead and manufacture. So we can do it in snaps, we can do it in buckles. I've been talking with our new medical devices team about what we can do possibly in that space as well. So we see this technology as being something that we can employ across our entire portfolio of product. And I think that's what's most exciting about this, is it really opens a big door to create this connection to the customer in multiple different touch points.
Oh, wow. Okay. So it's basically watch this space. The Touchlink is the introduction point, and if it does prove to have traction with the customer, you have further plans. And from what Jesper said originally about it's the brand going on the journey alongside their customer is a wonderful thing to do. Now, Natasha has also been on the chat bar answering the questions. So I'm now going to involve the three of you, and I'm not going to direct these questions particularly at one of you. Please chip in if you want to say something on it. But from the point of view of a brand wanting to get involved in this project with YKK, how easy? Do they just buy the product from YKK and get Natasha to program it? What additional support will a brand need to come on board with Touchlink technology?
Well, from the hardware side, I think it's relatively easy. We can supply the product, the Touchlink puller, to customers. So we can build custom pullers to customers' needs and specifications. So we can custom tailor that hardware solution to their needs. I think the bigger challenge for a lot of brands will be on the software implementation, and that's where Natasha's team steps in.
Okay. Natasha, can you tell us more about the software limitation? Well, no, that's an unfair question, because when you answered it earlier, you just blew my mind about the different aspects. I'm sure Jesper was still there making notes, saying it can do this as well. Jesper, I'm going to ask the question to you before I give it back to Natasha.
I will work with opportunities rather than limitations, because I like that way of thinking much more. And it's really about the data we collect and what your mind limits you in terms of what you can do with it. We work together with some amazing front-end developers to create this experience that you will see in the launch that we're coming up with, to really use the data that has been collected throughout the production of our products, but also now in the user phase, and how that will help the users to better understand their own use of the product, but at the same time also interconnect with us, interconnect with the products themselves, and in the long run also with others. So I think it's not really fair to say there's limitations to where we are now, but it's more what you can actually do with the data that you have to start off with, and the data as you collect it. And I think it's a big part of where we're heading going forward, is how can you as a brand enable your customers to create a better experience for themselves. And for us, it's going to be you can either go in, as we have used as a working name, Tamagotchi mode, where it's just you and your garment and nothing else, and you're not sharing anything with us, or you can go full transparency, where you're sharing everything that you do, and take that as a part of co-creating the future of connected garments as we see it. So I think it's really about and not limiting yourself, but looking at the opportunities that we have.
Jesper, that's the most wonderful attitude to have. Thank you for pointing that out. But I'm going to move to Natasha, because we are talking about software here. Now, before you answer that big question about limitations, Natasha, there are a couple of minor points which have come up in the chat bar. Can you just clarify? I see you've written about anything more modern than the iPhone 8 will work with this technology. Do we have near field communication problems if we're using an Android system?
Yeah, so obviously it depends on like which versions of the phone you're on. And I think you can Google now like which versions of the phone and see your version, and if it connects based on, where you are within the sort of latest cycle on your individual phone. But all of the current new phones across providers do have NFC included.
Brilliant. You've just clarified a major qualm.
Yeah, I think what we're seeing now too across our clients is this move toward portfolio-wide ID. And I think that Brian made a really excellent point, is that it's not a one-size-fits-all for identifier across different products. Some of your products might not have a zipper, right? Some of your products may have a snap. Some of your products may be very soft and there's no suitable NFC. So when we look and work with a client on portfolio-wide digitization, some of those clients have already made that initiative public. For example, Ykk Nfc Group were doing portfolio-wide ID. On Monday, they launched their shoes, right? So a QR code isn't suitable for a shoe. So there's an NFC in the sole. Some zippers will look to have the YKK solution. some jeans have a QR code, right? There's a whole collection of sort of different identifiers based on the product fit. And what I think is very strategic right now is that this product, this identifier is very suitable for the outdoor industry. It's very suitable for products where this zipper already exists. It's easily interchangeable, and it's highly this technology is becoming more and more understood by the consumer.
Natasha, you've also made a fatal mistake in that answer. Because you've opened up our brains even more, you realize you're going to get 1,000 LinkedIn requests because people are going to want to ask you further questions about how wide your vision is. But thank you so much about, just opening up thoughts. If I can come back to a bit more of a closed question, and I believe this will be for Brian. Brian, this technology is going to add cost to the zipper. Can you give me an impression of, is it really going to be a big cost? Is it, what are you allowed to say about cost at this stage?
Well, Charles, I think let's define what big cost is, right? Because we have to look at the value that this brings the product and the value that it brings to the consumers overall. One of the things a lot of people have been talking about in the chat that I've noticed is like, oh, great, you can do resale, you can do circular, end of life recycling, you can do these other things, but what other value can you bring to the customer? I've seen applications where, if you're going off on a run, you go ahead, touch your zipper, and you can trigger a playlist that goes ahead and starts your playlist for your run.
Oh, wow.
You can go ahead and use the technology to, again, touch your zipper when you're going out for a hike that sends a notification to your loved ones. Hey, I'm leaving for the hike. I'll be back at such an hour. You can have medical information stored on it. There's a whole host of value that we can offer to our customers and functionalities that we can offer to our customers. This technology is so broad, it is only limited by the imagination of the brands and what they want to do with it. So it's pretty immense what you can do. So when we think about it in that sense, what is the worth of that value? Is it worth $1.50 more to a brand to put on their product? Is it worth $2 more? That's going to be the big question that I think a lot of brands are going to have to ask themselves when they start looking at this is, what value can we give to our customers to the product overall? And I think it's immense. I think it's well worth the upcharge that it comes with the product.
Well, I think because of what Jesper said earlier about his brand wants to accompany the garment owner on the journey, and that whole journey, whether it enables better use of the circular economy, whether it enables more safety or more enjoyment, as you are starting to hint at yourself, Brian. What I want to do is I want to put the question on to Jesper. Jesper, there are a lot of new developments which the brand absorbs and it bites into the margin. Have you yet had the discussion at Houdini Sportswear about, is there going to be a price uplift of over €5 on this product?
You were breaking up a little bit in between.
All right.
I think I got the main point of a price increase in general. I think the way we look upon when we do products is really to going back a little bit to Brian's point as well, like what's the experience? And up until this point, we've always created the really optimal products without compromises, and then we set a price for it. And up until this point, we managed really well selling them. So that's the approach we have when we create a product, rather than thinking of it from the other way around. And I think maybe that's going back to what attracted me by the company to start off with, to really focus on what's important for the end user and building products from there and things that people love and we ourselves love. And then usually we end up with a cost which is acceptable. And if you look at it over time, going back to emotional durability, in a survey we did quite recently, the average use of one of our beloved, but also one of the most expensive products we do, was about 1,287 times as an average. And if you start looking upon that as an average cost per use, rather than what it actually costs to buy the product in the first place, you end up with a true cost towards the use. And I think in that case, it becomes less relevant when you actually start looking at the cost of the product when it's from the very first stage.
Thank you, Jesper. I've been scanning the chat, but I think most of the questions have actually been answered by Natasha and John on the system. The question I thought was going to win was from John Langdon about how small this can get, but sorry, John, that's been answered. So you're not going to get the bottle of champagne. What I want to do now is actually close out this session because time's running out. And I've just got to say, you guys have all been describing to me creating a future history tag as a concept, which will be superb for the emotional durability. But what I want to do is, firstly, I want to thank YKK for putting their heads above the line in supporting this technology. I think there are going to be lots of conversations which are initiated because of this. But in particular, I want to thank Brian for being the center of all the hassle to get it off. I want to thank Natasha for just blowing my mind completely. And Jesper, because I thought that I loved Houdini enough. You've given me extra values now for the brand that I want to. I'm in England. We're not meant to love Swedish things, but you've just changed things around. So I want to thank the three of you, but I also want to say, before Jessica hassles me at YKK, for those of you who haven't registered on Zoom, please send an email to contact.usa@ykk.com. The address is at the top of the chat bar, and then Jessica will be able to send you a recording of this. So for all the bits I found hard to understand, you can replay and really understand it. But to close out this session, I want to ask the three people I have as the victims of my grilling. I want to ask you for a 30-second or a minute wrap up of why they think that Touchlink will open a new chapter in garment technology as opposed to just being a flash in the pan idea. Jesper, I'm going to start with you because you're easy to pick on.
I think it's really about connecting our products as a whole, looking beyond just product creation as the circular economy, and looking at the bigger perspective and systematic thinking and how that really enables circular economy. And this is a gateway or as a portal into that. And the way we need to design systems for circular economy. Looking at where we've been designing linear economy systems for a long period of time, and it's time that we create the systems for a circular economy and live with them to create the shift that we all need to do together.
Brilliant. That makes so much sense to me. Natasha, I'm going to come to you and say, look, what is it that will make this technology open a whole new chapter?
Yeah, I think there are two sort of simultaneous streams of, new solutions and technology that are enabling this, both on the hardware side, where the form factors are continuously evolving and improving, and I know that YKK will stay at the forefront of that. And then also on the sort of software side and the network capabilities of each connected product. Now, a connected product is only valuable for a brand when that product actually has endpoints in places where it's connected. And so on the Eon platform side, what we're doing is really expanding that network for brands so they can instantly access thousands of endpoints and partners, and their products can be connected to an ecosystem that's beyond their own enterprise. And so I think those two sort of streams working side by side, the hardware evolution and the software and the networks, is really going to lay the digital foundation and systems for circular commerce.
Wow. Wow. Yeah. Natasha, I'm going to have to follow up with you afterwards because you just say so many things hinting at what is potential. And yeah, when my mind catches up with what you've said, I'm going to have a really long and heavy conversation about this. But can I go on to Brian? Brian, you're the guy who the buck has stopped with you. You're the person who has rattled YKK and said, we've got to do this. You found the partners. What else do we need to know, Brian, about this project?
I think the thing to know is this is a starting point, right? We're building for the future. We need to move to a more circular economy within the apparel industry. That is a reality, and we're just starting to wake up to that. And this sets the foundation. This sets the process in motion and gives us the technology that's going to enable so many of the components that need to make up the circular economy. And so that's the whole thing about this, I think, is this exciting. It's the future. It's the future here today.
Brilliant. You've summed it up so effectively. I have run out of questions. I think John Holiday especially has answered so many of the technical things. You've got the email address if you need to follow up. Does anyone else want to have any final comments, or is this the formal end of the session, because we're now 1 hour into our webinar?
I have one thing to say, Charles. I want to give a big shout out to Mr. John Holiday. Not only has he been just superb on the chat, people don't realize he's also the engineering brains behind Touchlink. So please give him a big round of applause.
Thank you. Right. I don't know what else to say other than thank you, every one of you. There were over 150 people tuned into this live. I'm going to have to let you go off and attend OR, go home, have a cup of coffee, lunch, or if you're my friends in Asia, it's time to get to bed. You need the beauty sleep. You shouldn't be staying up at this hour. Thank you very much, everyone, on behalf of YKK. Bye-bye.